Okay guys, so we are starting Unit 3 today, which is all about polynomials. Today, 3.1, we're going to be adding and subtracting polynomials. So before we get started, let's look at a few definitions. First is polynomial, and if you remember from English, poly means many. So a polynomial can have many terms. It's an expression that contains constants, which include 3, 10, -4, variables, which include x, y, and any other letter that you want, let's say m, and exponents. So we can also have exponents. They can be combined using addition, subtraction, or multiplication, but the big thing here is you cannot combine them using division. We have a separate rule for division. So if we have a polynomial with only one term, that's called a monomial. And you know that mono means one. So mono means one, so it's a polynomial with only one term. An example of that would be 24x to the 7th. Now 24x to the 7th does contain a lot of different parts. It has a constant 24, it has a variable, and it also has an exponent. But because they're all together in one little package, that makes it one single term. Another special kind of polynomial that has its own name is a binomial. Now, bi means two. So a binomial is a polynomial with two terms. And an example here would be 3x plus 5. 3x is one term. It has a constant and a variable. And then 5 is another term. And they're put together by addition. So we have two terms here, 3x and 5, and they're put together by addition. That is a binomial. The last type of polynomial that has its own special name is a trinomial, and tri means 3. So a trinomial is a polynomial that has 3 terms. And an example would be x squared plus 5x minus 14. So we have one term, x squared. Our second term is 5x, and those two are being added. And then our final term, our third term, is 14. So we have 1, 2, 3 terms in there, so it is called a trinomial. So how do I add polynomials? We have 3 steps to adding polynomials. The first one is we're going to get 2 sets of parentheses with polynomials inside each, and they will be being added together, those sets of parentheses. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to distribute that plus sign, the addition, into the parentheses. That's step 1. When we do that, we can take down all the parentheses, and in step 2 we can combine like terms. So step 1 we're going to distribute, step 2 we're going to combine like terms, and then step 3 we're going to arrange the terms in order from biggest to smallest, and that's really important. So make sure that you guys underline or circle that. Step 3 is we want to arrange the terms in order from biggest to smallest, which means our exponents are going in what we call descending order. So if we can add polynomials, we can also subtract them. So to subtract polynomials, the signs or the steps are actually all very similar. We're going to have 2 sets of parentheses with polynomials inside, and they are going to be being subtracted. So step 1, we're going to distribute the negative into the parentheses. And when we distribute a negative or multiply by -1, all the signs change. So all signs change when we distribute the negative into that second parentheses. Then we're going to combine like terms. And then very last, we want to arrange the terms in order from biggest to smallest. So we always arrange our terms in order from biggest to smallest. And biggest to smallest has to do with the exponents, not the coefficients. It has to do with the exponents. Okay, so let's look at example 1. Example 1 gives me 9x squared plus 3x minus 6. That's one polynomial. Plus the second polynomial, 4x squared minus 14x minus 1. So step 1 said that we were going to take that addition sign and distribute it into the parentheses. And really when I'm distributing an addition, it's actually distributing a positive 1. So whenever I multiply anything by positive 1, nothing changes. So we have 9x squared plus 3x minus 6. 1 times 4x squared is plus 4x squared. 1 times negative 14x is negative 14x. And 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So then we're going to combine like terms. So I have 9x squared plus 4x squared. So that gives me 13x squared. I have 3x minus 14x. So that gives me negative 11x. And negative 6 minus 1 gives me negative 7. So when I combine all my like terms, my answer is 13x squared minus 11x minus 7. Example 2. So example 2, I have a little bit longer polynomials, but I'm still adding them. I have 6x to the 4th minus 5x to the 3rd plus 3x minus 6. All of that plus negative 10x to the 4th plus 4x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus x plus 2. That's a lot to be adding, but I think we can do it. So when we have a plus in front of the parentheses, there's actually an invisible 1 there. So we're going to distribute to everything inside the parentheses that positive 1. And that's going to give me 6x to the 4th minus 5x to the 3rd plus 3x minus 6. And whenever I multiply anything by positive 1, nothing changes. So we have minus 10x to the 4th plus 4x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus x plus 2. So now I can combine like terms. So when we are looking at putting things in descending order, we always look at the exponents. So I want to look at my biggest exponent first, which in this case is x to the 4th. So I have 6x to the 4th minus 10x to the 4th. So that's going to give me negative 4x to the 4th. Now I want to look at my x to the 3rd. So I have a negative 5x to the 3rd plus 4x to the 3rd. So that's going to be minus 1x to the 3rd. So I have an x to the fourth and x to the third. I want to see if I have any x to the second. And I do. I have a negative 2x to the second. But that's the only one there is. So I'm just going to put minus 2x to the second. And then after 2x to the second, I just have a plain x. And I have a couple of those too. I have plus 3x plus 1x. So that's going to give me plus 4x. And then last I'm going to look at my numbers, and I have a negative 6 and a plus 2, so that's going to give me minus 4. So my answer here is negative 4x to the fourth minus x to the third minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 4. So make sure you box that whole thing. So when I say put your terms in order from biggest to smallest, I mean in terms of the exponent. So we have x to the fourth, to the third, to the second, just x, and then no x's. So let's look at a couple of examples when we are subtracting. In example 3, I'm going to be subtracting 9x squared plus 3x minus 6, and then subtracting from that 4x squared minus 14x minus 1. So my first step is to distribute the invisible 1 here. So I'm going to distribute the invisible negative 1. And that's going to give me 9x squared plus 3x minus 6. Negative 1 times 4x squared is negative 4x squared. Negative 1 times negative 14x is plus 14x. And negative 1 times negative 1 is plus 1. Now I get to combine like terms. So I want to look at my biggest exponent first, which in this case is x squared. So I have 9x squared minus 4x squared, which gives me 5x squared. Then I have positive 3x plus 14x, so that is positive 17x. And then negative 6 plus 1, which is minus 5. So my answer when I subtract is 5x squared plus 17x minus 5. And you are correct. That is the same as example 1, but this time we are subtracting them. So example 4 is the same as example 2, but this time we're going to be subtracting. So I have that invisible negative 1 here. So I'm going to distribute the negative 1 into the parentheses. And that's going to give me 6x to the fourth minus 5x to the third plus 3x minus 6 plus 10x to the fourth minus 4x to the third plus 2x squared minus x minus 2. Now we can combine like terms. I have a 6x to the fourth plus 10x to the fourth. So that gives me 16x to the fourth. Negative 5x to the third minus 4x to the third. So that's minus 9x to the third. So now I want to look for some x squareds, and I have a positive 2x squared, and that's all we have. Now just my x's, plus 3x minus x, so that gives me plus 2x. And then negative 6 minus 2 gives me minus 8. Example 5 tells us that the sum of two binomials is 5x squared plus 6x. If one of the binomials is 3x squared minus 2x, what is the other binomial? So basically what they're saying here is I have two binomials. So I'm going to put them both in parentheses for right now. And the sum of the two, so I'm actually adding the two binomials here. The sum of the two binomials, so the answer is 5x squared plus 6x. If one of the binomials is 3x squared minus 2x, so that's saying that here's my answer, 5x squared plus 6x. One of them is 3x squared minus 2x, so I'm going to fill that in. And then the question is, what is the other binomial? So I have this binomial plus some other binomial. We don't know what it is yet, but all of that equals 5x squared plus 6x. So what we have done before when we want to move something over to the other side is we subtract it. So let's subtract, and make sure you keep it in parentheses, 3x squared minus 2x. So when we subtract 3x squared minus 2x from both sides, when I distribute that invisible -1, the 3x squared becomes negative and the 2x becomes positive, so all of these guys cancel each other out. So I'm left with 5x squared plus 6x minus, if I distribute here, 3x squared, and -1 times 2x, or negative 2x gives me plus 2x. So now we can combine like terms. So 5x squared minus 3x squared gives me 2x squared. And 6x plus 2x gives me plus 8x. So my answer is 2x squared plus 8x. So if I add 2x squared plus 8x to 3x squared minus 2x, I will get 5x squared plus 6x. Now I know we haven't seen a problem like this ever before, so let's do another one. Example 6. The sum of two binomials, so the answer is 10x squared minus 9x. If one of the binomials is negative x squared plus 7x, what is the other binomial? So what we're doing here, the sum, so the answer is this guy here. So we're going to take 10x squared minus 9x, and what did we do last time but to the two binomials in order to get the answer? We subtracted it. So then I'm going to subtract, in parentheses, negative x squared plus 7x. So I have that invisible -1, so when I distribute it, it gives me 10x squared minus 9x plus x squared minus 7x. So let's combine like terms. I have 10x squared plus x squared, so that gives me 11x squared, minus 9x minus 7x gives me negative 16x. So really, whenever we see one of these problems, what they're asking us to do is subtract the second one from the first one that they give us. Okay, last two examples. We're going to be looking at some perimeters. So let's look at this T shape in example 7. They're asking me to find the perimeter of this shape, but I'm missing some pieces here. So let's look and see what we have. One side is 2, this side is 4, this one is 7, the bottom piece is 1, this side is 7, and this one is actually 5. So we have to fill in the blanks before I can even find the perimeter. So if this side is 2, and this side is the exact same length, it is also 2. So how would I find the length of this long piece? Well, I know that up to this point it's 4. I know that this piece right here is 1. And I know that this piece right here is 5. So the length of this whole piece is 4 plus 1 plus 5, which is 10. So now to find the perimeter, I just add all the sides together. So I have 10 plus 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 1 plus 7 plus 5 plus 2. So we can add all of that stuff together. So let's try and do this in our head. So we have 10 plus 2, which is 12, plus 4, which is 16, plus 7, which is 23, plus 1 is 24, plus 7 is 31, plus 5 is 36, and plus 2 gives me 38. Now we can apply this same concept to a shape where the sides have variables in them. So this side is 2x, we have x, 3x plus 4, 5x plus 2, and x plus 10. So I know I first need to fill in the missing side. I know that this piece right here is 5x plus 2. And this piece right here is x. So if I were to add both of those pieces together, x plus 5x gives me 6x plus 2. So the missing side is 6x plus 2. So to find the perimeter, now all I have to do is add all the sides together. So I'm going to start with 6x plus 2 plus 2x plus x plus 3x plus 4 plus 5x plus 2 plus x plus 10. Now we just combine like terms. So 6x plus 2x gives me 8x, plus 3x gives me 11x, plus 5x gives me 16x, and plus 1x gives me 17x. And then we can add up all of our numbers. So I missed an x. So plus another x gives me 18x. Now let's add our numbers. So we have 2 plus 4, which gives me 6, plus 2, which gives me 8, plus 10 gives me 18. So 18x plus 18 is our perimeter. And that is 3.1. So on your homework logs tonight, it says that your homework is from the big textbook, page 373, numbers 25, 27, and 31 through 41, odd only, so that's only 5 problems. And then worksheet 1, all, and worksheet 1 is only 8 problems. So you have 5 plus 8, which is 13, plus 25 and 27, so you have 15 problems over the weekend for homework. Make sure you have it done for me by Monday, and I will see you guys on Monday.